Welcome to U.S. Briefing. The content of the briefing includes Trump's ex-lawyer Sidney Powell pleads guilty in Georgia election case. Julian Assange to be made honorary citizen of Rome. The House has never been speakerless for so long. New York sues DCG, Gemini and Genesis over alleged $1.1 billion crypto fraud. EU carmaker subsidy deal with U.S. at risk over mine inspections. Trump's ex-lawyer Sidney Powell pleads guilty in Georgia election case. The Guardian. Sidney Powell, the former lawyer for Donald Trump who was charged with conspiring to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia, has pleaded guilty as part of a cooperation agreement with prosecutors. Powell's guilty plea and cooperation mark a significant moment in the case, as she was involved in some of Trump's most brazen schemes to reverse his election defeat. Powell's agreement to testify could have far-reaching consequences and may put pressure on other defendants, such as Rudy Giuliani, to take a deal and potentially testify against Trump himself. Julian Assange to be made honorary citizen of Rome. Yahoo! WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange will become an honorary citizen of Rome by early next year, according to the city's former mayor. The decision, which was approved by Rome's local assembly, aims to recognize Assange as a symbol of free speech. Assange has been in London's Belmarsh prison since 2019 and is wanted in the US for the release of confidential military records and diplomatic cables in 2010. His supporters argue that his prosecution is an attack on journalism and free speech, while the US claims that the release of secret documents put lives in danger. Other Italian cities, including Reggio Emilia and Naples, have also granted Assange citizenship. The House has never been speakerless for so long. Washington Post. There is currently no Speaker of the House in the U.S., and this is the longest period without a Speaker while the House is in session in American history. The lack of a Speaker is hindering the government's ability to get things done, though the House was already operating at an unusually unproductive pace. It is possible that Representative Patrick T. McHenry will be given enough power to get the House functioning normally again, but it is unclear when this will happen. New York sues DCG, Gemini and Genesis over alleged $1.1 billion crypto fraud. Financial Times. The New York Attorney General has filed a lawsuit against Digital Currency Group, DCG, Gemini, and Genesis, alleging that the companies fraudulently misled investors during the cryptocurrency market crash of 2022. The suit claims that the companies lied to over 230,000 investors about the safety of their investments when the prices of cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin fell sharply. The lawsuit also accuses DCG's CEO, Barry Silbert, and Genesis former CEO, Soichiro Moro, of attempting to hide over $1.1 billion in losses from the public. The Attorney General is seeking to recoup investors' money and halt the company's securities activities in New York. EU carmaker subsidy deal with U.S. at risk over mine inspections. Financial Times. A deal to allow EU carmakers to benefit from U.S. subsidies under the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, is under threat due to Washington's demands on environmental and labor conditions. The biggest hurdle is the U.S.'s insistence for countries where European carmakers are sourcing their electric battery materials from to allow inspections of mines and processing centers. The EU argues that it has similar environmental and labor standards through its own regulations and that the inspection idea is impractical. The proposed deal was scheduled to be clinched on Friday when U.S. President Joe Biden hosts EU leaders. 3 storylines to watch on Bruins' first road trip of new season. Yahoo! The Boston Bruins will begin their first extended road trip of the 2023-24 NHL season this week, playing 4 games against the San Jose Sharks, Los Angeles Kings, Anaheim Ducks, and Chicago Blackhawks. The road trip will provide an opportunity for the team, which has many new faces, to bond and get to know each other better. It will also be a chance for young center Matthew Poitras to prove himself in his new role. Poitras, who earned a spot on the opening night roster, has played well so far and will now get a chance to skate with Brad Marchand. The Bruins will also be hoping to improve their 5-on-5 scoring, as they have scored just 2 goals at even strength in their first 2 games. Finally, the Bruins will be looking to take advantage of a relatively easy schedule, as 3 of the 4 teams they will face on the road trip finished in the bottom 4 of the league last season. Winning these games could help the Bruins build a cushion in the standings. A new era, China embraces GM corn, soybeans after years of heated debate. South China Morning Post. China has approved the commercial use of genetically modified, GM, corn and soybean, in a move aimed at improving food security. The country approved 37 GM corn varieties and 14 GM soybean varieties for commercial planting on Tuesday. China has made food security a priority, and the latest decision marks a change of direction for the country's seed industry. The varieties have been bred for increased herbicide or insect resistance and higher yields. However, the commercial adoption of GM crops is unlikely to lead to large-scale planting in the immediate future. North Korea's human rights abuses and weapons of mass destruction are inextricably linked. Diplomat. The United Nations Security Council should address the nuclear program and human rights abuses in North Korea simultaneously, as they are inseparable aspects of the dangerous government, according to an op-ed in The Hill. The article states that severe and widespread human rights violations in North Korea are directly linked to the government's pursuit of nuclear and ballistic missile technology. The United States and the European Union have both recently expressed concern about the situation in North Korea. After a 6-year vacancy, the Biden administration has appointed a special envoy for North Korean human rights, and the EU has reaffirmed its concern about food insecurity in the country. The op-ed argues that a new coalition of concern on North Korea should be formed, bringing together relevant actors from the United Nations, the EU, the G20, and the newly expanded BRICS group. This coalition should address pressing concerns such as food insecurity, access to information, and the development of weapons of mass destruction. The article concludes by stating that the North Korean government must be held accountable for the crimes it has committed against its own people. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the Venerable Sixth Doctor, your trusted observer from the six-dimensional world. Today, we have a diverse range of news to discuss, from politics and law to sports and international relations. So, let's dive in and make sense of it all. First up, Sidney Powell, former lawyer for Donald Trump, has pleaded guilty in the Georgia election case. This is a significant development, as Powell was involved in some of Trump's most audacious attempts to overturn the 2020 election results. Her cooperation with prosecutors could have far-reaching consequences, potentially putting pressure on other defendants, like Rudy Giuliani, to strike deals and testify against Trump himself. It seems like the Trump camp is slowly crumbling, and the plot thickens. In a completely different corner of the world, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is set to become an honorary citizen of Rome. This decision aims to recognize Assange as a symbol of free speech, despite his ongoing legal troubles. Supporters argue that his prosecution is an attack on journalism and free speech, while the US claims that his leaks put lives in danger. It's an intriguing debate, and it seems that Italy is taking a stand to honor the importance of whistleblowers and the freedom of the press. Now, shifting gears back to the US, we have an unusual situation in the House of Representatives. There is currently no speaker, making it the longest period without one while the House is in session in American history. This lack of leadership is hindering the government's ability to get things done, which is pretty impressive considering how unproductive the House already was. Let's hope they find someone capable of herding the cats and getting the House functioning normally again. Moving on to finance, the New York Attorney General has filed a lawsuit against digital currency group, Gemini, and Genesis, alleging a $1.1 billion crypto fraud. The lawsuit claims that these companies fraudulently misled investors during the cryptocurrency market crash of 2022. The Attorney General is seeking to recoup investors' money and halt the company's securities activities in New York. It's a reminder that the crypto world is not immune to fraud and deception, and regulators are keeping a close eye on the industry. In international news, a deal between the EU and the US to allow EU carmakers to benefit from subsidies is under threat due to mine inspections. The US wants countries where European carmakers source their battery materials to allow inspections, while the EU argues that it has its own regulations and inspections are impractical. It seems like the road to a subsidy deal is a bumpy one, and both sides need to find common ground to keep the wheels turning smoothly. Now let's talk sports. The Boston Bruins are embarking on their first extended road trip of the NHL season. This road trip provides an opportunity for the team to bond and for young players like Matthew Poitras to prove themselves. The Bruins will also be looking to improve their 5-on-5 scoring and take advantage of a relatively easy schedule. So, let's hope they bring their A game and bring home some wins. Lastly, we have an interesting development in China's agricultural sector. China has approved the commercial use of genetically modified corn and soybean varieties to improve food security. This marks a change of direction for the country's seed industry, as they embrace genetically modified crops for increased resistance and higher yields. While large-scale planting may not happen immediately, it's an intriguing shift in China's approach to food production. And that's a wrap, my dear viewers. We've covered a wide range of topics today, from legal dramas to international relations and sports. Remember, your thoughts and opinions matter too. So, what do you make of these stories? Do you have any burning questions or fascinating insights to share? Let's keep the conversation going and explore the depths of these news stories together. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.